And welcome into the Change Up on WAY Sports. As always, I'm joined by WAY Sports Director Matt Digby. And along with us, as usual, is Tom Bill. Welcome back.
How we doing, man? Episode 2. It's awesome.
Yeah.
We're rolling.
It's been a great journey, getting ready for the talk. We talked a lot about college football, but we also got high school football coming up. August 26th, first Friday of the year. That's definitely a date everyone around the state's looking forward to.
Yeah, we're about to have Coach Frank Isaacs from Midland Trail High School join us here in a bit. Tom, the football season we're here. We talked about it last week. Dog days of summer.
Man, yep.
We had a big week at British Open. We'll get into that a little bit later.
British Open, and later on we'll also break down some of the stuff going on with the Rio Olympics. I know there's a lot of breaking news, especially the last few days with Russia and some anti-doping issues. So we're going to get into that. There's a lot to discuss there.
So that's something to look forward to when we bring it home. Matt's going to bring it home to us. Also, talk a little golf, maybe?
Absolutely, yeah. My theory on what happened this past weekend at Royal Troon, a lot of talk has been about the younger guys in the game of golf, rightfully so, but you take a look at Phil Mickelson, Henrik Stenson. They're 46 and 40 years old, respectively, and they were the top two by a large margin at Royal Troon. But it was a great weekend for them and a great weekend for golf.
Yeah, I think we'll get into that a little bit. Maybe talk about Jordan Spieth, some of those expectations of the last year not going meeting up to this year. And I think I'll talk a little bit about Serena Williams, as she really surpassed Tiger as the athlete that we thought would take over.
She's up there, man.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of dominant she's shown. It's unlike anything we've seen.
Yeah, never seen before. But joining us first here today on the Change-Up is Coach Frank Isaacs of Midland Trail High School. Coach, thanks for joining us, man.
Hey, thanks for having me, bud.
You guys excited down over at the trail for this upcoming football season?
Yeah, excitement's probably an understatement there in Hico. There's a lot of excitement going on around the football program right now.
Coach, you did such a great job of bringing the community in last year. You guys had tailgates, you had the atmosphere that I think every coach really kind of strives to get around his football program. Just talk about the culture you're bringing back to trail football.
Well, when I got the job, I realized that there wasn't a backing from the community, and there wasn't an excitement that used to be there for Midland Trail. So in my interview and when I met with the assistant coaches, I said we are going to restore the tradition here at Midland Trail, and I think we did a pretty good job of that. We wanted to get the community involved. We're a little different from any other school in Fayette County anyway, is we don't have a town. You got Fayetteville for Fayetteville High School, Meadow Bridge for Meadow Bridge, Oak Hill for Oak Hill, and Montgomery for Valley. Midland Trail is kind of spread out, but we've got really, really great people in the communities that feed Midland Trail, and I wanted to showcase that. And so we started the Trailgate, and we started all kinds of things that incorporated the community in the Friday night events. And I think we accomplished that. Midland Trail has always been a community school, and I really, really wanted to showcase the community that we have around here.
Yeah, and that definitely showed in the early part of the season, especially your second game of the year. You were hosting Clay Battelle, 20-14 win over the Seabees, who have traditionally been one of the great programs in the state of West Virginia. That was a very emotional night, as I recall. How big was that in terms of setting the tone for how the team would respond to all that community support?
Well, you hate to say there's put us on the map, because Midland Trail's always been there, but that did that opened some eyes for some people that may not have been aware of what was going on at Midland Trail, and it was needed in so many different ways, emotionally due to the loss of Sammy Burdett and things like that. We needed to heal, and that was a great way to heal some of the players and some of the community members that knew Sammy. But football-wise, it gave our kids confidence. I think we came out of the Independence game satisfied that we played with them. But I wanted our guys to understand that any game that they're involved in, there's going to be a potential or the possibility of winning. And I don't think they were ready for that. And I think that Clay Battelle game really solidified that mentality of, hey, we can win any game we're a part of.
And also the interesting thing about the Clay Battelle game was it was that weekend where there were a lot of lightning and thunderstorms throughout the entire area. A lot of games were suspended. Some even moved all the way to Saturday. And your game against the CBs was delayed because of those storms. How was it now that you've had almost a year to reflect on it and just anticipating the change that you guys had to make after the delay?
I don't ever want to experience that again. That was being a first year coach, you've got enough challenges. And the second game that we're in, we go out, we warm up, we play. I don't think we played 3 minutes, and there was a lightning delay. So we come out and we go back in. We go back out and we play. We finish the first quarter, and we have another delay. And it felt like it was like that all night. But I think the Clay Battelle coach, because they kind of helped out the whole situation. They came from, I think it's 4 hours away, and he said, "Hey, we'll play till 6 o'clock in the morning. We're not driving back. Our school won't let us do that." So I said, "All right, we're here. So let's just wait." So I think the longest delay we had was about a 2-hour delay.
Coach, how do you keep you guys focused through a mental battle like that? Having those
Well,
delays.
a lot of our, some of our coaches we had a discussion about that, and I said, "Hey, let them just enjoy this. I mean, it's kind of chaos. It's dark outside, so we just kind of sat around and relaxed. I let some of them. We're going in. It's almost 10 o'clock at one point. We're still in the locker room. Some of those kids hadn't eaten since, say, 5 o'clock when we had team dinner. So I let them go to the concession stand. You saw Midland Trail football players standing in the line at the concession stand getting stuff. I just told them to try to hold off on the heavy stuff. So we were just kind of real relaxed. And when the referees gave us the 20 minutes, they said the radar looked like it was pretty clear. We got strapped back up and we refocused pretty quickly. And the kids did a really, really great job of coming back on the field and being ready to play. And our coaching staff, it was funny. I always tell our coaches that we're going to look professional, so we got to tuck our shirts in and wear our khakis and all that. It was so humid and muggy. We went back to our practice attire, and the coaches are begging me to do that this year. But we all went out there and did a great job of pulling out the win.
Well, it says a lot about your team that you guys were able to pull out with the win after all that. And then looking at your schedule a couple weeks later, I'm new to the area, so I haven't seen you guys play yet, but I'm looking at your wins from last year. 88-33 over Richwood. That looks like a basketball game gone wrong. How do you score that many points in a football game?
Well, we went into that game thinking we were going to have a pretty tough game because it looked like on film Richwood had a couple of really good players, and we were expecting a dogfight. In the first half of the first quarter, it was like that. We traded scores. I think it was maybe 16-12 or 16-14, and we ended up returning a kickoff for a touchdown. They came back down and tried to throw a couple passes. We intercepted one and returned it for a touchdown. That just opened up the floodgates. I've never been part of anything to where a team scores in every facet of the game. You talk about an interception return, a fumble return, a punt return, a kickoff return, a block punt return. We ran it, we threw it. It was crazy. And there at the end, you don't want to demoralize the other team. We actually nailed it a couple of times on 2-point conversion. And our coaches, we got to 88, and some of our coaches were like, "Do we break 90?" I was like, "I will never break 90." Did you think about going for 100? No. Do what?
Did you think about going for 100 there?
No. Well, a couple of coaches said, "Are we going to get to 100?" And I said, "I'm not breaking 90. We'll set on it."
Must have been a fun week in the film room.
My starters didn't play after the first quarter.
Wow.
Yeah. What did you say? Did you even watch the tape? Did you show the kids the tape just for fun, or how do you break down a game like that?
We didn't even watch it. We just said that enjoy it, and if you want to look at it, you can look at it on Huddle yourself. But as a team, we're not going to come together and look at that. There wasn't going to be a whole lot that we could see.
Right.
Richwood just had a bad night.
Well, going up this season, you're going to face a couple teams, rival teams on the road. You got Meadowbridge and Fayetteville both on the road. You'll be going across the bridge, of course, for the Fayetteville game. Coach Moneypenny, has a pretty good squad coming back. What do you expect this year out of those two teams, rival-wise?
Well, it's always going to be a dogfight regardless. Meadowbridge and Midland Trail just don't like each other, and Fayetteville and Midland Trail like each other even less than that. When we go down Meadowbridge, it's going to be a little different just because for the first time in, I don't know, half a century, I think, they're not going to have Coach McClintock on the sidelines. They've got a new coach there. So we're really not for sure what we're going to expect there yet. And then, of course, you travel across the bridge. Fayetteville's they're going to offer a challenge because they're going to pass the ball. They got a really good quarterback and got an unbelievable receiver. So without looking at film, we know what to expect. And anytime you go against either one of those teams, they're both going to be well coached and they're both going to play really hard.
Yeah, but as well as Fayetteville and Meadowbridge, they have a lot of key players coming back. You have key players coming back as well, including Thomas Ferris. He was one of our C. Adam Toney Athletes of the Week for his performance against Fayetteville last year in your guys' win. He had, I think he had 2 pick sixes, if I recall correctly, and he's not the only big quality player coming back.
No, we have. We're losing 3 on offense and 3 on defense. So we've got the majority or the core of our kids coming back. We've got, of course, Thomas, who can do just about anything you ask him to do. You've also got Cordell Lesher, who's going to be in the backfield, and Curtis Gray, a returning quarterback. We also have both our starting receivers coming back and 3 returning linemen. So we feel like we're going to be pretty well set on offense. And defensively, we're implementing a new defense. But like I said, we've got 7 returners there as well. I really feel like that we're going to be. I'm not hiding the whole circumstances of what's going to go on. I think we're going to be pretty daggone good, and it's up to our players to meet all the potential that they have.
So, Coach, I know you're still a couple weeks away from the first practice here, but in some of those spots where you aren't returning starters from last season, who are some of the guys that you've seen step up so far, whether it just be in the weight room and that kind of thing? Who do you expect to kind of step up into those new roles?
Well, Dylan Brassey played spot roles last year on offense and defense, and he's really stepped up. The one thing that we are losing is probably our leaders. We're missing Andrew Dickerson, Roger Lilac, Christian McGuire, and Kyle Keeney. Those 4 were really our leaders, whether it was on offense and defense. So we are lacking in some leadership, which I've told our coaches they just have to come from us until some of those players step up. Dylan Brassey is one during the 7-on-7 in June that I've seen that stepped up and really took the reins as a leader. We also have a kid that didn't play a whole lot last year, but he's worked his butt off in the weight room. That's Heath Anderson. So, like I said, that's what August is for, is to develop some of those leaders. So leadership-wise, that's about all we've seen. But, we've had several kids, Trevor Harrell, Hunter Jones, Cordell Lesher, Thomas Ferris has lived in the weight room. So Morgan Ferris, his brother's been in the weight room. So we've had several kids that's really developed, and it's really cool to see because you see a lot of people don't realize that Midland Trail had a bunch of freshman sophomore out on the field last year, and you're looking at 14, 15-year-old kids playing against 18-year-olds. So just watching the maturity and the development of some of these younger kids is really neat to see. And if we did what we did last year at 6-4 with a bunch of 14, 15-year-old kids, it's just really exciting to see what these 15, 16-year-old kids are going to be able to do.
Yeah, definitely. You guys just missed out on a nice little playoff run. Coach, being one of the younger coaches, you took over for Coach Joe Dean. Coach Bonnie Penny down in Fayetteville took over for Frank Spangler. Meadowbridge has a new coach this year. Just some legends of West Virginia football. Just finally, just wrap it up for us and just tell us what it's like being a younger coach and learning from those legends previously, and where does West Virginia football head from here?
Well, West Virginia is still behind times. The SSAC has tried to help, and I know that they've made some changes here coming up for next year with the flex days and things like that. But it's an honor to follow someone like Joe Dean and Jim Martin at Midland Trail. I can only imagine what it's like to step in the shoes, in the shadows of Frank Spangler and Coach McClintock down Meadow Bridge. But that tells you that that Fayette County football has been taken care of for a long, long time. And to be honest with you, it's an honor to have that privilege to coach in Fayette County and to be able to carry on. And there's a lot of pressure as well because let's face it, other than Midland Trail, there's been someone from Fayette County that's went to the playoffs just about every year for the past 7 or 8 years. And there's pressure just to carry on that tradition, and it's exciting for me to be able to do that. I was able to leave and come back, so I feel like I don't have that much pressure compared to some of these other guys. But it's hard to put into words when you're following someone that's been in a position for 50-some years, like Coach McClintock or Coach Spangler. Coach Dean was at Midland Trail for, I think, 16 years, and Jim Martin was there for 15 years, I think. So, just when you hear Fayette County and you hear those names, most people in the state of West Virginia know who you're talking about. The rest of these guys, like me and Coach Moneypenny and Coach McCormick and Coach Riker, I don't know if anybody knows our names yet, but we're bound and determined to make our names known.
Well, I guarantee you, a bunch of people do know your names, and they'll know them even more when you go for it on 4th down and miss it this year. But
we will definitely be doing that. I promise you that.
There you go. Well, Coach, we want to thank you for joining us here on the Change Up, man. We wish you guys and the kids best of luck this year. You guys stay safe and stay healthy.
Hey, I appreciate it, guys, and y'all making sure you come out to Hico and watch us.
Absolutely,
For sure.
yeah.
Thanks,
August
Coach.
1st, you guys start practice, and then what's the excitement right now? Not long ago until August 26th, you open the season on the road at Independence.
That's right. And Independence will be tough.
Well, good deal, Coach. You guys have a good season, man. We'll talk to you down the road.
Okay, buddy. Thanks for having us.
All right, thanks.
All right, bye-bye.
All right, that was Coach Frank Isaac from Midland Trail High School. Big season up ahead of them, guys. A lot of challenges. He says, they had a good year. They missed by, a game. It kind of got in the playoff run. Some math got involved there. They needed a score and some other people to lose, but just barely missed out on the playoffs. Go have, I think, a good year.
I think so, too. One of the things I noticed about the team last year was, we didn't talk about it a whole lot in the interview, but they were kind of like a Jekyll and Hyde team. It was one week they were playing great, and then the very next week, for example, because of emotions or whatnot, they weren't able to perform at that high level on a consistent basis. So that's going to be the thing for Midland Trail. Can they do it week after week? If they can, and they have an opportunity because they have weeks 4 through 6, that big meaty part of the season where your season really will be defined. They have all those games at home, and they take on Richwood, Van, and Gilmer County. If they can go at least 2-1, maybe 3-0, they definitely have a very good shot.
You see this with a younger team; they kind of don't finish the game.
I think a lot of that inconsistency comes from the maturity thing that he was talking about. A lot of 14, 15-year-olds out on the field last year. This year, it's going to be more 16, 17-year-olds, as you mentioned. They're returning a lot of guys, so that always helps things out. The big thing is if they're going to be able to step up and maybe steal a few wins against some of these AA teams.
Yeah.
Independence to start the season off, a playoff team from last year. Same thing with Liberty. So if they can really step up to the plate and come through with some victories early in the season against some of those tougher teams, they should be in great shape.
Yeah, they are taking on 3 AA opponents this year: Independence, Liberty, and Nicholas County. The Grizzlies also in that same category as the Patriots. They were in contention for a spot until late in the season, and they just missed out on being one of those 16.
All right, guys, we're going to take a short break here. You're listening to the Change Up on WROI Sports. Welcome back into the Change Up on WROI Sports. Here with Matt Digby and Tom Bill. Guys, we talked about some high school football in our opening segment. We're going to make a transition here. We'll talk some more football. Joining us now is Cam Huffman, the Director of Sports PR at the Greenbrier. Thanks for joining us, Cam. Big, exciting times for you guys down there, but at the same time, it's some hard times with all the flooding. You guys got the Saints coming up. Just kind of catch us up on the state of affairs down at the Greenbrier. How you guys doing? Everything coming back together all right?
Well, it's definitely been a tough few weeks. Nothing anybody ever expected or anybody really knew how to deal with. The devastation was incredible from the floods, but we're getting back up and open. We opened July 12th, and as you mentioned, we're excited about the Saints coming in next week, and we're looking forward to that. And I think that'll be a good sign to everybody that the Greenbrier is back up and running, and that we're bringing people in, and kind of a sign that West Virginia is going to get back on its feet a little bit.
Cam, how great is it to work for an organization like the Greenbrier and watching that community come together in such hard times?
Yeah, it's the way the entire community has come together through this whole situation has just been amazing, and makes you proud to be a West Virginian, and I'm definitely proud of that. Proud to be a Greenbrier County native, but yeah, the Greenbrier organization has been fantastic as well. We had lost the Greenbrier Classic and have two of our golf courses closed right now, and it'd be tough to be easy to kind of feel sorry for ourselves, but the whole organization has really pulled together to help out community members and put the focus on where it should be and helping everybody from the flood before we turn our attention back to ourselves. But I think now we're at the point where the focus is trying to get people to come back and watch the Saints and come and play golf or whatever to get this community back on its feet. It needs those people to visit to kind of boost the economy a little bit.
And speaking of the Saints, only 1 week to go until they arrive for the third straight year. They've done a lot for the community. They're going to be doing a lot, with helping out with the flood recovery. And you and I had spoken several weeks ago. You mentioned the fact that they have this experience with disasters, having been through Hurricane Katrina. That's going to play a big role, I think, in terms of how they're going to be able to contribute.
Yeah, absolutely. There was kind of reports the week of the flood that the Saints might not be coming back, and none of that was ever true. They've never wavered on it at all. It was like you said, they've been through a disaster like this, and they know how important kind of getting back to some sense of normalcy is, and so it was important for them to come and help out any way they could. They scrapped their usual physical tests that they have on the first couple of days, and instead are going to go out around White Sulphur and around Raynell and around the community and help out with rebuilding homes and do whatever they can. So they've just been, the whole time they've been here, you've seen the class of that organization. The players are fantastic to talk to. The management is just great, and we knew that's what they would do in this situation, and that's exactly what they've done is stepped up and lend their support, and they definitely know how to deal with it and know what people here are going through and appreciate that and want to lend a helping hand.
So, Cam, this is the final year of a 3-year contract you guys have had with the Saints. It's something I'm assuming that you guys would want to continue in the future. Are there any plans at this point to extend that? Where do those negotiations sit?
Yeah, when the Saints were here last year, they talked about wanting to extend it, and Mr. Justice talked about wanting to extend it, and I think they just didn't finalize it before they left, and then the Saints got into the season, and they're worried about other things than what they're going to do here. And then we had the flood and everything that's been going on here. I think just everybody's focus has been in other directions. But I think once they get here and kind of their management can sit down with Mr. Justice and talk and iron things out, I would expect it to continue and a new deal to be worked out, because it's been great for everybody. I mean, you hear the Saints talk about it. They talk about just they get everything that they wanted from a training camp here, and the Greenbrier has gone above and beyond to provide them with whatever they need, and it's been great for us too to bring some attention to the area and bring some focus to West Virginia and Greenbrier County and what we have going on here.
Well, I certainly understand it's a beautiful facility, but how did that relationship kind of manifest in the first place? How did the New Orleans Saints come to have a relationship up here in the Greenbrier?
It's kind of like a lot of those things happen and just kind of completely by chance. And the way it worked out was Sean Payton was caddying for Ryan Palmer in the Greenbrier Classic, just a friend of his, and he invited him to come here and be his caddy for the week. And the Saints were kind of looking for a place to move anyway to kind of get out of some of the heat and humidity for New Orleans for some practice sessions. And Sean Payton loved to hear, and the dialogue was Mr. Justice had been looking for somebody to do it for a while. He'd actually spoken to the Redskins and a couple other teams prior to that, and they got together, and it kind of just all worked out perfectly for everybody.
Yeah, and Sean Payton definitely has been very complimentary of the resort. He's been very firm in his stance that having some of the training camp practices at the Greenbrier is not the reason why they struggled, although I'm sure there are many skeptics who would be inclined to disagree with him. But especially, it seems like it's basically a management issue in terms of extending that contract. Does it solely come down to the talks between Jim Justice and also Tom Benson and Mickey Loomis?
As far as I know, that's everything. I'm not on the inside of those conversations, obviously, but as far as I know, that's all it is. It's just kind of ironing out the details, and that should get done. But yeah, you mentioned that the Saints have not had great seasons the last couple of years, and a lot of their fans have wanted to blame it on the posh treatment they receive at the Greenbrier. It's kind of funny. I saw one of the Saints beat writers on Twitter the other day mention that and say, do these people think these millionaires don't have posh lives at their own homes? I mean, what do they think they're going home to? A boot camp at home? So it's really, I don't think that's a factor at all. I think the reason that they wanted to come here was for to have some lower humidity and to relax, and they feel like at the end of the season, taking some of that wear and tear off their players might keep them healthier down the stretch when they need them most. So I think that's kind of the philosophy behind it. And NFL training camps aren't what they used to be anyway. It's not the Junction Boys out there anymore. It's a different thing. So I don't think the treatment they receive here has anything to do with making them soft or anything like that at all.
Cam, you kind of got an inside look. You've definitely got a background in sports like the rest of us, but you get an inside look at this training camp. But just kind of give our our listeners that inside view of what it's like to go through a training camp on a day-to-day basis. And like you said, it's not posh treatment at all. It's basically boot camp.
It is, and it's neat to watch, really, because you think of the NFL as being, something completely different than any other level of football. And really, the athletes are bigger, faster, and stronger, but what they're doing on the practice field is the same as what they're doing at Oak Hill or Woodrow Wilson or Greenbrier East for the most part. It's the same kind of football at every level, and they're going through some of the same drills, but it's definitely neat to watch some of the best athletes in the world do it and see how they look differently going through the same drills than you might find somewhere else. But they put a lot of hard work into it. But I think training camp in general has just changed over the years, where the coaches and general managers and everybody in the NFL has realized that pushing players to the limit every single practice may not be best in the long run, because they're trying to make it through a long season. So they don't go as hard as maybe you would expect to see from an NFL. If you think they go so hard in high school, they go so hard in college, the NFL has to be even at a higher level. But it's not really like that. There's a science behind it, and they know when to push and when to take it a little easy. But it's definitely fun to watch these guys up close and personal in practice. One thing that stood out to me was last year when the Patriots came, and they were doing 2-minute drills with both teams. So to watch Drew Brees and the Patriots Tom Brady do 2-minute drills, and just to see their expertise and how crisp and how planned everything is. Two of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game up close and personal. It's a pretty neat experience.
Well, yeah, you just mentioned the Patriots came in last year. That's my team, being from Massachusetts. Do you have any word on if there's going to be any more teams coming in for joint practices this year?
There won't be this year. It's just kind of the way the schedule worked out. Usually the teams that they practice with is kind of based on the preseason schedule, and it just didn't work out that anybody was going to be close enough of any of their preseason games that they could make it work this year. So they're actually going to New England this year. But in the future, I'm sure if the relationship continues, there'll be other teams come in, because the Patriots, I know, love their experience here, and the Cardinals were here during the season last year and loved it. So I think there's a lot of options out there for teams that would like to spend a few days here and see what they could get done with the Saints.
Yeah, you just mentioned the Cardinals. Their season worked out that they had back-to-back games on the East Coast, so they were able to spend a couple days here. And I know Jim Justice, I think at a Rotary Club meeting several months ago, mentioned the possibility of the Cardinals returning, also the Oakland Raiders. Of course, it's all dependent on the schedule. I can't remember those schedules for both those teams off the top of my head, but any teams in particular that you're seeing with back-to-back games on the East Coast that may be considering the Greenbrier?
Not right now. There's been some dialogue about it, but nothing finalized with anybody. But it just has to, like it did with the Cardinals, play out perfectly, like it did last year, where they have the 2 games on the East Coast and time in between. But some teams, like I know the Cowboys play 2 East Coast games, but the Cowboys have put a whole lot of money into their own practice facility, so they have to kind of balance that with not feeling like making people feel like they're wasting money on their own facilities or not taking care of their own city. So I think it'll happen more and more often. The Cardinals said after they left that they would try to be back at some point and that they would recommend it to anybody. So I think we'll see it, but it just has to be kind of everything fall perfectly in place for it to happen.
Cam, just going off your knowledge again of the sports world, what do you think about the Open Championship this weekend? Lefty came back in second place.
I sat there and watched it on Sunday pretty much every second of it, and that might have been the most fun I've ever had watching golf. It was just so fun to watch those guys go head-to-head and perform the way they did. It was I've always kind of been a Phil fan anyway, so I was rooting for him, but you have to tip your hat to Stinson with what he did. I mean, Phil was playing maybe the best I've ever seen him play, and for anybody to up that is just incredible. But what's fun to watch that, and they're so far ahead of the rest of the field. I think it shows you how special those 2 guys were this week and on Sunday. I don't remember watching a final round of a major that was any more entertaining.
What's Phil's legacy going to be? Is it going to be the second place finishes?
I don't think so. I mean, he's won his share of majors, and I think he proved this weekend that he's not done yet. I mean, there's still a chance maybe he could get that U.S. Open and complete the Grand Slam. But if you look at the only person who's finished second more than him is Jack, and look at Jack's legacy. So I think Phil will be remembered as a champion. And it's just I saw this stat today that he has 2 of the top 5 rounds in major history and finished second, and both of those. So it's just final rounds. I mean, so it's just incredible. It's not like he's really choking out there. He's going out and playing well, and just every time it seems like somebody plays even better that week. So there's nothing you can really do about that. So I mean, Phil's an incredible golfer, and like I said, I don't think he's done yet. We're hopeful we're going to see him back here sometime soon.
Absolutely, either with the Greenbrier Classic or with a potential U.S. Open. Speaking of that, last month the USGA announcing future sites. They would be returning to Oakmont and Shinnecock. So the soonest the Greenbrier's Oakhurst course would be able to host the U.S. Open would be 2027. How is we have mentioned when the floods had hit, the Oakhurst course didn't really get that much affected by the flood, but how is progress coming on that course right now?
It's going well. I mean, obviously, a lot of people have turned their attention to the old white and some of the rebuilding efforts there, but the progress is still continuing up on the mountain, and we're really excited about that course and the possibilities of what could be down the road with it. And the U.S. Open announcements, we weren't expecting to get on that schedule anytime really soon. The course has to get open, and people have to see what it's like first. But I still think there's a chance down the road. And when Mr. Justice says he's going to do something, it usually happens. So I wouldn't count him out of that race for sure.
And with the USGA bringing in a new president, Diana Murphy, she's from Princeton, West Virginia, so she does have that Southern West Virginia connection. How important do you think that might play a factor in if or / when the Greenbrier gets the U.S. Open?
Well, every little advantage you can get always helps. So yeah, it's good to if you really sit down and look at it, there's a lot of West Virginia ties in the USGA and the PGA Tour. So people in the golf industry know about West Virginia, and they know about the Greenbrier and what we have done here. So hopefully all that helps as all those people can chip in a little bit and give their input.
Yeah, and then Cam, you got some other cool stuff coming up 2 months from now, the Greenbrier Champions Tennis Classic. You're going to have Pete Sampras, John McEnroe, Venus Williams, some pretty big names there. Can you talk about that tournament a little bit, what people should expect for that?
Yeah, I'm really excited about that. The Tennis Classic has been a great event for 5 years now, and I actually played tennis in high school, and I was lucky enough that we got to practice here at the Greenbrier on some rainy days. So I'm very familiar with the Greenbrier course and have a special place in my heart for them. And when I was playing back in those days, my favorite players were guys like Pete Sampras, who's now out here as our tennis pro emeritus and playing in this event. So it's always been a great event, but I think that to add the women to it is fantastic. I think hopefully it brings in some new people who haven't seen the event before, and you can't get a whole lot bigger than Venus Williams when it comes to women's tennis. So I think that makes that event even more exciting than ever before, and we're definitely looking forward to it. The center court at Creekside was actually a bowl full of water during the floods. It was the lower deck was completely underwater, but the national company that came in and cleaned it all out, and it's all clean now, and the surface has to be replaced, so they're working on that, but it'll be ready in plenty of time for that September event, and it should be fantastic. I'm looking forward to it for sure.
That's good to hear. Did you ever get to hit any balls with Pete?
I haven't. I'm going to try to do that sometimes. I did get to sit down and talk to him for a little while. It was a pretty neat moment, but it's been a while since I've hit a tennis ball, so I didn't want to embarrass myself too much, but maybe I can go down and practice a little bit and be ready when he comes in September.
Yeah, but it's going to be a great setup, especially with Venus Williams and Madison Keys both coming to the resort for the first time. They're still, performing at high levels. Venus, for example, just a couple weeks ago at Wimbledon, she made the semifinals in the ladies singles, and she and Serena teamed up to win the ladies doubles championship. How big is that you can bring in current stars of the game? Because I know in the past also Jim Courier has mentioned the possibility of bringing the Davis Cup team here for practices.
Right, yeah, it's huge to be able to do that. And Madison Keys is actually ranked number 9 in the world right now, too. So it's 2 current top 10 players on the women's tour. So that's pretty incredible. And Madison Keys, is an up-and-comer. She's young and performing well. So who knows what the future holds for her. So maybe you get to see another superstar eventually on her way up if you come check out that match. So, yeah, that's really exciting. The legends are great. I mean, everybody loves Andre Agassi and Pete Sampras and John McEnroe, and to get a chance to see them at any point is fantastic. But there's a younger generation that maybe doesn't remember their playing days so much that definitely knows Venus Williams and Madison Keys, and will be excited to come check them out.
Yeah, only thing is, though, we just got to hope for the weather, because I remember the last few events they've had at the center court at Creekside, Mother Nature hasn't always been the most cooperative.
Yeah, since we built center court at Creekside, I don't think we have a full set in yet as far as our exhibition matches. But I guess the luck we've had with weather, eventually that has to turn, right? The sun has to come out at some point.
There you go.
Yeah.
Hey, can you just talk about the legacy of Serena Williams? Matt just mentioned, she won Wimbledon and then just turned right back around and won the doubles with her sister. Does she take over the legacy of Tiger Woods that he never really quite lived up to yet, unless he's going to make another comeback here? Is she really the athlete of our time?
She may be. That's a great point. I mean, you can't really think of anybody in any sport who's been that dominant over that length of time. I mean, it's just, and she kind of, transformed what you think of as a tennis player too. I mean, those guys have always been athletic and in great shape, but her, athleticism is beyond anything of what we've seen before, I think, in tennis. So yeah, her legacy, she's going to be definitely long remembered, and Venus would probably be right up there with her. If it wasn't for Serena, she'd probably be the one we're talking about. So yeah, they've both been incredible over their careers.
Just a fan of sports, Cam. I know you keep up with the Mountaineers and the Marshall Thundering Herd. What do you see any expectations for those two teams coming into the new season?
Well, I think with Doc Holliday and what he's done in Huntington, Marshall has to be considered one of the favorites every year in Conference USA. I don't think this year is any different. I mean, they have some key pieces to replace, but I also think they have the guys there ready to step in, and they're one of those true programs that no matter who they lose, that they're always kind of have somebody to step in and are right there at the top of Conference USA. So expect that again, and West Virginia. I think West Virginia is probably going to be a little bit better than people expect. I think Skylar Howard has matured a lot, and I expect him to have a big year. And I think some of those receivers that showed flashes of talent last year have matured a little bit and will maybe be a little more consistent this time around. You always have to worry about the defense because you lost a whole lot over there. But and the Big 12 is going to be strong this year, so eight wins will probably be a pretty fantastic season when you look at the competition. But I think this team is capable of making some noise and being competitive really with anybody in the league.
Well, you made some great predictions already in sports this year. I remember at the beginning of the year you predicted basketball team, high school from Southern West Virginia would win a state championship. We had that with Wyoming East girls. You predicted Mike D'Antoni would be an NBA head coach, and that came true. Do you have any predictions on WVU football as far as what to expect?
Oh, that's a hard one. I think eight wins. I think 8 regular season wins is what we'll look for, and if they can get a ninth in a bowl game, I think most people would be satisfied with that. And I kind of think that's what this team will do.
Cam, we want something bold, man. Big bowl games, national championship.
You got to give me a little time to think about it. I haven't just been sitting at my desk thinking of columns to write here lately, so I haven't been able to come up with my bold predictions. Give me some time, I'll come up with something. I want to hear what you guys have to say about high school football. That's what I'm interested in this time of year.
Well, yeah, we actually were just speaking with Frank Isaacs from Midland Trail. I know you guys, when you were still at the Register Herald, you named him Coach of the Year. They're coming off a very good season, especially when you take a look at the fact that it is his first year taking over for the legendary Joe Dean, now that he's back for a second year. But you have a lot of more coaching changes going on right now. Meadowbridge, I know, has a new coach. Woodrow Wilson is going to have Street Surratt taking over for John H. Lilly. And then I don't know if you heard just earlier this week, Larry Cook is stepping down from West Side.
I did hear that. I hate to see that. I always enjoyed working with Larry, and definitely Larry McClintock as well. He was one of my favorites. I'd love talking to Larry McClintock at any time, and just the way he still got it done. Kind of took an old school approach, but still won games and won time after time, and he was a fun guy to watch. But you mentioned Frank Isaac. I'm excited about him too. I love getting to know him last year, and a tremendous season he had, not just on the field, but everything that program went through and the way he kind of bonded the program and the community. So look for big things out of him for sure.
Cam, is there any stories you can share with us? Maybe some of those deep down secrets, some of these older coaches. I know you've worked with Coach Spangler over at Fayetteville. Like Matt said, some of these older coaches. Any stories that stick out in your mind?
I'm trying to think. Not particularly. I just, those guys. What kind of stuck out to me most about them is just the way that they related to the new generation. It's players today are a lot different than when those guys started their careers, but they found a way to still relate and still connect to those players, and the players respected them incredibly, and I think that transformed on the field to the results. So the thing I really learned by watching those guys is that there's more than one way to do things. Some of the spread offenses and uneven defenses and all that stuff that's kind of taken over the game today. It works, and people have success with it, but these guys have proven that you can still do it the old way too, and without blocking and tackling still matters. So I think it's just fun to watch those guys and see that there's more than one way to get wins on the board.
All right, Cam, we want to thank you for joining us here on the Change Up, man. You have a good one, and you guys the best of luck down there at the Greenbrier with all the disaster recovery.
All right, I really appreciate it, and good luck with the show. It sounds like it's going to be fantastic.
All right, man. Thank you.
Thank you, Cam.
All right, guys, that was Cam Huffman, the Director of Sports PR with the Greenbrier. Of course, Cam has an extensive background in sports, wrote for the Register Herald for years, and really knows West Virginia sports and really the whole landscape of sports. I love what he brought up about Coach Isaacs. We talked about it in the beginning of our interview about the culture of football and West Virginia sports. Cam really takes that to the next level down at the Greenbrier, doesn't he?
He really does, and it's all about extending the love of sports beyond your town or beyond your county. I mean, all of Southern West Virginia kind of feels like when they're going up against a school from Charleston or the Bridgeport-Clarksburg area or from the Panhandles. It's all that collective togetherness that I found to be really exciting to see in person.
That's something that I'm looking forward to getting experience first time around here coming up this fall. I'm really looking forward to see that culture live in action. I've certainly got a taste of it with basketball, but from what I understand, football is king down here.
How important is it for a place like the Greenbrier to be involved in the community like they are? I mean, they brought in the big names, and that's great. You know, it's a great symbol for the state, but they really get down and dirty with everything they do.
Well, it's really important because you look at what the Greenbrier represents as far as West Virginia. I mean, it is pure elegance and natural beauty, and it's really one of the highlights and the staples of the state. So for them to not have a connection with the community would be, you know, like a tragedy. They need to really be involved, and they've done that. They've always gone the extra mile, especially now with all the flood relief stuff. You know, they're getting out involved in the community. They're not just making it about them and, oh, our golf courses got ruined, you know, woe is me. They're reaching out to the community because they understand that it's a collective effort, this recovery. It's going to take everyone getting involved with each other.
And I think also part of it is Jim Justice. He was interviewed by NBA TV a couple months ago, and I remember one of the quote he said was, he doesn't want to be one of those guys that collects a big pile of gold and then just spends every day looking at it. He wants to do things with his time, and he's been very efficient with that.
Just being from the Boston area, what do you think the first time you heard the Saints practice in West Virginia?
I think it's pretty awesome. Like I'm glad why I asked Cam about it, because geographically, you know, it's a little tough to understand. But when you understand, you know, Sean Payton kind of developed that relationship, and it kind of just, you know, spurned from there. It's a pretty cool thing, and I think that, you know, he talked about some people have criticized the Saints for coming up here and saying that maybe affected that. I think that doesn't make any sense to me, because, like you said, they're coming out of the heat in New Orleans. There's got to be better practicing conditions for them. I don't see how this would hurt them in any way. They're professionals. They're used to travel and all that kind of stuff. I think the real issue with the Saints is that they just have a lot of holes in their team, especially their defense.
Right.
You know, after they lost Jimmy Graham, their team kind of took a step back last year. And, you know, I know Drew Brees is still Drew Brees, but their success is going to depend on what else they can build around him. And right now I think they're just kind of in a tough spot.
I think either way, Matt, these guys are away from home. I think that's the biggest point. It's not like the Greenbrier area is Bourbon Street.
Exactly.
You know, it's a nice area, but, you know, you take them out of that atmosphere, I think it just works better, don't you?
I think it does. I mean, I remember I was there for the final day of last year, and a lot of them were, you know, talking about missing their home, getting to see their wives and kids. But I think it is a good change. I'm looking forward to seeing the new acquisitions adapt. You know, the draft picks, whoever came in the offseason, you know, coming from Columbus, coming up following Ohio State. I know several Buckeyes are on the squad this year. James Laurinaitis coming over this year. They drafted Michael Thomas, the wide receiver. So it's going to be interesting to see those guys up in person.
All right, guys. Well, you're listening to the Change Up on WRY Sports. We're going to take a quick break here, and then we'll be right back with more sports talk with Matt Digby and Tom Bill and myself, David Miller, on the Change Up on WRY Sports. And welcome back into the Change Up on WRY Sports here with Tom Bill and Matt Digby. I'm David Miller. Thanks for joining us here. Guys, we've had a good show here. We talked to Cam Huffman, the Director of Sports PR at the Greenbrier. And of course, he wrote for the Register Herald for years. And then we talked to Coach Frank Isaacs over at Midland Trail High School. Exciting time for them. They should have a great football season coming up. I think both of them really they're excited about high school football. Both of them kind of mentioned that. You know, of course, Coach Isaacs did, but it's going to be a good year here in Southern West Virginia for football, right?
I think so. We had 9 teams that were able to qualify for the playoffs, although 2 of them did have home games. But I think it's going to be a lot of anticipation. You know, a lot of teams did have valuable senior contributors who graduated in 2015, and now they're going to be looking to new guys to step up in 2016. But it's going to be a great challenge for every team across our region, both those who have new coaches and those who've had coaches who've been here a while.
You feel it in the air kind of building.
Oh, I can definitely feel it. There's a lot of excitement down here. People know it's right around the corner. It's a couple more weeks now, and then we're into it.
You know, do an overall landscape of the sports. We've kind of hit it all up here today. We talked some Saints heading down to the Greenbrier again this year. That Saints practice, it's really going to be a bigger than preseason football, right? It's going to be a collective community coming together.
Well, absolutely. And we touched on earlier, the Saints have experience with this sort of thing post-Hurricane Katrina. So it's very fitting that they're back here at the Greenbrier in this post-flood relief time. And so they certainly know how important it is to reach out to the communities, work with the communities in these tough times, and I think it's going to be a really great thing for everyone around here.
Let's move on now. Let's talk about the first show. We talked about the ESPYs. We kind of hit up a little everything. But this past week, we saw something amazing in sports, Matt. We saw the Open Championship, and we saw Lefty come in second again.
He come in second again, but at the same time, you can't take away what did happen to the winner, Henrik Stenson. I mean, 20 under par. That had never happened in a major championship until last August with the PGA Championship. Jason Day shooting 20 under par, and then not even 12 months later, 11 months later, you have that happen again with Henrik Stenson at Royal Troon. And Stenson also has the record now for fewest strokes taken, 264. That had never happened before. And he had a great birdie putt on 18 to solidify that record. So that was a great accomplishment. And like you said, another second place finish for Phil, but that was just a great duel between the two of them back and forth, especially when you consider Stenson was 20 under par, Mickelson was a runner-up at 17 under par, third place was back at 6 under par. So it was basically those two the entire weekend.
What do you think's behind those low scores? Is it like club technology outpacing the courses themselves, or is there something else going on there?
I think it's a little bit to do with club technology. I think it's also just, the old time mentality of when you get in the zone, you can't miss. I know David and I, as golfers, we've been in those situations where once we make a great putt, we're in good moods, and there are times where we just can't hit a bad shot, even if we tried to. So that's definitely what I think happened for Stenson on Sunday, especially on that back nine. And for Phil, he had his opportunities. But, part of it is, hitting the ball long. I know when you and I met with Gary Poyer several months ago, he's mentioned the new technology of the ball and the new technology of the clubs. And also, that's one reason they're extending the courses, making them so long now for players.
Right. I remember when Tiger Woods was in his heyday, they talked about tiger-proofing a lot of these courses. Yeah. I mean, he was just out driving past what they'd ever seen anyone do. Do you think they're going to have to start making more adjustments to these courses, making them longer and things like that going forward?
I think they may have to almost kind of bring it back, because what Gary Poyer was saying, the course he, Arnold Palmer, Lee Trevino, and Jack Nicklaus are going to be working on, that's not going to be used just for a major tournament. It would also be used for, amateur golfers, average golfers. Okay. So they want to make it both challenging for the pros, yet accessible for the everyday golfers.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think bringing it back instead of keep going longer, just bring it back and put some dog legs in there, put some higher rough. And I think that's the way to go.
Make it more of a finesse.
Yeah,
course.
Yeah. Okay. And the greens, you could do so many things with the green. We talked a lot about the U.S. Open possibilities at the Greenbrier. It's going to be, you only got so much landscape. These guys are going to drive it a mile no matter where you go. You could go out to the local golf course and they're still going to drive it a mile. So I think putting those irons and those shorter clubs in play is really going to be the key there. Bring it home for us, Matt. What do you think Phil's legacy is going to be after this?
Well, I don't think Phil's done yet. I think this was a great example of proving why he's not done, why Henrik Stenson's not done. It's only his first major at age 40. I know golf right now is dominated by the talk of Jordan Spieth, Rory McIlroy, Jason Day, rightfully so, because they all have fantastic years or 2 years at this point. But the older guys, so to speak, they can still play. Zach Johnson winning a major last year at St. Andrews, his second major. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if in a couple weeks at Baltusrol, the PGA Championship, we have another guy who's not really considered one of the young guns lifting the Wanamaker Trophy on that Sunday at the PGA.
I saw a quote from Jordan Spieth saying, not exact quote, but saying it's not fair for everybody to expect him to live up to expectations of last year going into this year. He's kind of struggled.
He's young, man. Yeah. I mean, it's certainly going to be, whether you want to call it a sophomore slump or whatever. I mean, he's very young. What is he, 22? Is he even 23 yet?
I think he's there around 22, 23.
Look, I mean, you see Phil getting it done, and he's about double his age. So these guys can play for a very long time. So for him to kind of have a little bit of a learning curve, he had some early success, but sometimes once you have that early success, it's a challenge to repeat that process and develop that consistency that can take several years. So I think that people need to be a little more patient. He's 23 years old. Just relax. He's a very good golfer. He's going to be back on top someday.
Well, I think part of the reason is, though, the final round on Sunday at the Masters, he had a multiple shot lead over the field, and then he comes to the 12th hole. He hits not one but two shots in the water. If he doesn't hit any shots in the water, he probably wins the green jacket
Yep.
for a second straight year. So I think he's still kind of haunted in a way, not unlike Jean Van de Velde at the 1999 Open, for those of you who remember. But I think it's still going to take some time for him to come back, but it will make him a better player because of it. Because I remember the year I first started getting into golf, 2003, Tiger Woods was still in his slump. You know, he hadn't won a major since the 2002 U.S. Open. His next major wouldn't come until the 2005 Masters. So I think he still has to recognize there will be a slump. Sooner or later, every great player has that in their career, and they come out stronger for it.
Yeah, they say your brain's not fully developed until 25. So, I mean, if he's going to have some lapses in mental toughness at this stage, I don't think it's anything to be too concerned about. He's going to figure it out.
Yeah, a little tin cup action going forward. It's not always the worst thing in golf. I mean, you'd like to see that.
Yeah, there's good competition right now. There's a lot of young guys who are playing very good golf, so it's good to see.
Yeah, and just personally, I think, I don't think Phil's going to pull it out this year. I think maybe he has 1 or 2 more majors left in his career. He does suffer some medical conditions, some arthritis issues, but really, for me, I've always been a Phil fan, but he's never lived up to expectations. So second place finishes, just when I think of Phil, I think of watching on Sunday and watching him come up short. Is that fair?
Well, it's happened a number of times. I mean, there's no questioning the guy is one of the top golfers in the game. He's got skills, and I think one thing that kind of hurt him was that some of his best years on the course also happened to be Tiger Woods' best years on the course. So he kind of had to live in that shadow a little bit, and that was a little unfair because you take Tiger Woods out of the equation, and Phil Mickelson's probably the best golfer in the world for a number of years.
Yeah, and I think he's also still haunting himself by 10 years ago at Winged Foot. He led the U.S. Open by 1 shot with 1 hole to play. He hits a terrible drive all the way into the crowd, basically. His second shot isn't much better. He basically has a chip-in opportunity just to force a playoff, and he misses that. So that kind of scars him. I don't think he's completely recovered from it yet. I'm sure he will. And like you mentioned, his arthritis conditions, I don't think the whole insider trading deal that he's being involved with is helping a whole lot either.
Yeah. All right, time to go bring it home. Talk a little bit Olympics here.
Well, yeah, guys, Olympics 18 days away, and what just comes out from the World Anti-Doping Agency, this thing called the McLaren Report. And what is that? That's about the Russian Olympic team. Yeah. Turns out widespread systemic corruption, all kinds of doping allegations. Basically what this report alleges is that there were about 8,000 samples that the Russian section of the World Anti-Doping Agency basically just deleted. Any athlete who they considered to be in medal contention, they tested them. A lot of them ran up positive samples because the Russians were apparently promoting this sort of thing, and they just deleted those samples completely. And so now they're kind of being exposed for it. We've already seen the Russian Track Federation be disqualified from Rio, and with these last few days...
We just took a power hit.
Oh. That's what that means?
Yeah, I saw everything flash.
All right, so you just want to pick it up from the beginning of this part again? We can slap that together.
Yeah.
Damn. So close.
Hey, Jeff, we'll just start with Tom's Olympic talk. We won't do music or anything?
You want to just lead me into it, and I'll take it from there.
Okay. You got mics and everything? All right. All right, I'll count us down. All right, 3, 2, 1. And Tom, just bring it home for us. Olympics here, a lot of corruption going on, and with Rio just right around the corner.
Well, I mean, it seems to happen almost every Olympics. There's some kind of scandal, government corruption, financial issues, and here we are once again. We're 18 days away, and what comes out from the World Anti-Doping Agency is this thing called the McLaren Report, which is basically alleging that there's widespread systemic corruption involved with anti-doping on the Russian Olympic squad. what this report alleges is that there were about 8,000 samples from Russian athletes that were just deleted from the system. These guys were tested, and basically anybody who they considered to be a medal contending athlete, they just deleted their samples. And many of them had positive samples that were deleted because, according to this report, it's widespread throughout the entire Russian Olympic Federation. Is like there's a lot of doping going on, and we've already seen the track team completely suspended from the Rio Games. The big question now, will the IOC bar the entire country from these games? It's tough with this information coming out just 18 days before the opening ceremonies get set to kick off. That's kind of a late break for this information. So, there's a little bit of controversy there. The IOC has called a teleconference for this Tuesday to discuss what the possible sanctions would be. Some people are saying that they may just end up letting it fall on individual athletes. That was one of the things that the track commission tried to argue, was banning individual athletes as opposed to the entire team. Ultimately, the IOC ruled against that. But we'll have to see where this goes from here, because this is not a good look for Russia or for the Olympics in general.
Some of the stories, Matt, that you hear coming out, with the fake samples coming out, some of the extremes they went to with the urine test, and this just takes away from the legacy of the Olympics. I'm no longer excited for the Olympics. I haven't been in years. I think every time I think of Olympics, and especially track, I think of doping.
It is very unfortunate, because we've been blessed to see great talents in the sport of track specifically. Guys like Usain Bolt, Justin Gatlin making a name for themselves, but unfortunately, they are being overshadowed by scandals. And the fact that, the Olympics, they aren't what they used to be. They used to be, must-see TV for many, many years. And ever since, I would argue, since the Athens Games of 2004, it hasn't been that. It's always been, focused on a couple, maybe some athletes who underperformed. I know Michael Phelps, he had a great performance at Beijing in 2008, but he did not have that great performance in London. And with this being his swan song in Rio, is he going to be able to gear up for one last hurrah?
And the doping allegations, that's really just one component of major issues that we see with almost every Olympics at this point. I think people have finally wised up to the fact that these countries get sold lies when they're being asked to host these games. They're promised all kinds of economic profits and whatnot, and we've seen time in, time out, that's just not the case. The people who make money off of these games are the real estate developers developing all this infrastructure, which they get the public to pay for, and then after the Olympics, it becomes privatized industry. And you see people disenfranchised from their homes, homeless people kicked out of shelters. And this happens at every city that hosts the games. It's not unique to Rio or any one games that we've had in the past. This is something that we see consistently across the board with the Olympics. So I think going forward, we really have to examine if all this trouble is worth it for what is basically just a 2-week celebration of some of the world's greatest athletes. It's great to be able to showcase them like this, but I think we really need to think about the way in which we're doing it.
I think that's just a harsh reality that I kind of face. Like you said, there's so many amateur athletes
that do it the right way, and they work years and years on a craft they don't get paid for. Gymnasts, I think of immediately, swimming, everything. But every time I see a winner in the Olympics, I expect 2 weeks later for a doping scandal to happen.
Well, think about, the guys who did it the right way. They did it clean. And basically, if you're doing a sport like gymnastics or track, you're relying on winning that gold medal to get those endorsement deals, to get that notoriety that helps really push your career forward. There's not a lot of money to be made as a professional track athlete. And so coming into the Olympics and winning, it does a lot for you financially. And if you go up against someone who's juiced to the gills and they go out and win a gold medal and you're sitting there, you did it the right way, and you come up empty-handed, that's a tough pill to swallow right there. And I think that's why you see a lot of these guys turn to doping, because they can find ways, they've proven in the past that they can find ways to beat the system. And if not for this report, who knows how many Russians would have skated through this time. It seems like they got away with a lot back in the Sochi Games in which they hosted, so who knows how many of those medals are tainted.
Yeah, I think the other thing you brought up, Tom, was the economic impact, and I think a lot of countries are waking up. For example, several months ago, I heard Oslo, Norway, was pulling out of a bid to host an upcoming Winter Games, which meant the final vote was between Beijing and a town in Kazakhstan. Now, China and Kazakhstan, they are not known for human rights records.
No. And we just saw this in 2008 with Beijing, too.
Exactly, yeah. So I think the rest of the world is waking up, maybe sending a message to the IOC, hey, help us with this out, help us out with this. or we won't host the games.
I guess bringing it home, Tom, are you going to watch the Olympics?
I mean, yeah, I want to see my USA basketball team. That's what I'm most looking forward to. But it's tough to swallow when you see all of these problems going on, and I just hope that enough of this pressure will cause the IOC and some of these other Olympic committees around the world to sit down and have a true, honest conversation about the impact of the Olympics and what we can do to fix this thing.
Yeah. All right, guys, bringing it home myself, I want to talk about Serena Williams. We saw another major championship. The Wimbledon championship was just amazing, I think. You can't say she's in her prime, but you know, she turns right back around, wins the singles, and then goes plays with her sister and wins the doubles. Is Serena Williams the Tiger Woods that Tiger never lived up to be?
I mean, she's right there in the discussion. To do what she's doing at 34 years old in tennis is unheard of. That's simply amazing. She's the world number one. I remember some statistics. The difference between her and the number two is the same as like the number two, and I forget which one, the number 45 or something. It's just amazing how far ahead of the game she is at her age. And to do what she did in Wimbledon Sunday, you just go out, win the singles. Oh yeah, I'll turn right around, I'll win the doubles too. Just for show, why not? She's just simply amazing, a true athlete dedicated to her craft. She puts the work in, one of the hardest workers in the game and one of the most talented. And it's amazing to see, it really is.
Yeah, she definitely is one of the best female athletes of all time, not just right now. And what I'm taking away is the fact that she very nearly had the full Grand Slam in 2015. She won the Australian Open, she won the French Open, she won Wimbledon. She did not win the U.S. Open, and then she struggled not winning the Australian and French Open this year. So it was kind of, you know, is this the beginning of the end for Serena? And she comes out and proves her critics wrong just like that.
She would correct you in a heartbeat if you called her a female athlete. She would just say athlete, wouldn't she?
Yeah. And, you know, she's at the point, even at this age, you almost expect her to win the full Grand Slam any year because it's like, well, who's going to beat her? Like, why would anybody be able to beat her in a match? You just see it time in, time out.
Her training's not, you know, you don't write books about her training going up to these events. I mean, she is well known for not wanting to run and be in the gym, but still time and time again she gets in there.
She puts the work in on the court, yeah, and that's really the true sign of an elite athlete, is someone who pushes themselves mentally when they don't want to do that work, when they wake up on those days and they just want to stay in bed or be lazy that day, and they still get up and they push themselves through that workout because that's what you have to do to be the best.
Is her pulp culture, you know, legacy just as famous as her legacy on the court?
I would think so. I mean, I haven't paid attention to pop culture, so maybe it might not be as big as your on-court accomplishments, especially because there have been so many. She's now tied with Steffi Graf for second most majors, only two behind Margaret Court for the most all-time, men or women for that matter. But I think she is definitely a household name because of her on-court performances, and so is Venus. So are, you know, guys like Pete Sampras and John McEnroe. McEnroe maybe also known for his on-court tirades and his rants against umpires, but he also had that style of play that you definitely see in a player like Serena.
And she has all those aspects. You got McEnroe, so many different aspects of her game. You know, she'll break down and cry. She'll, you know, drop to her knees in celebration. You know, she'll throw a fit on the court. I think just her legacy is all time.
You know, the thing that impresses me the most about Serena is as good of a tennis player as she is, she's probably close to, if not as good of a businesswoman.
Yeah.
And a lot of, because of the pop culture stuff, she's very smart about building her brand and being in the news but not being overexposed in the news. And she's got all these connections with other athletes and rappers. And you saw like LeBron James congratulating her after her Wimbledon win. She's become one of the biggest names in sports, male or female, and she's done that by very smartly building her brand. And I think that's been a huge impact on the younger generation of female athletes who now have the confidence that, you know, I can go out and I can be a Serena Williams and dominate the competition and be a global star, not just a global female star, but a global athletic star.
All right, guys, let's give our shout out and get out of here. Let's tell them who they can check out for the music.
Yeah, absolutely. If you guys love the music here, you're impressed by it, my man John Canada with Gritty City Records out of Richmond, Virginia. You can check out his SoundCloud page, John Canada. He's got some mixtapes out there right now. Produces some very cool beats, so definitely check him out.
And make sure you check us out on @WAY Sports on Twitter and Facebook. We have our YouTube channel up and going. We got SoundCloud and so many other social media platforms. We want to say a special thank you to Showtime Music for helping us with some of this audio equipment. And for Matt Digby and Tom Bill, I'm David Miller. You've been listening to The Change Up on WAY Sports.